कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोधनंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोधनंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे राम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा शील प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा शील प्रभुपादा जय विष्णुपाद हम चपल व्यक्ति सदस्य सीमा इस वेंकटेश्वर भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन संस्था प्रचार शील प्रभुपाद की जय जय विष्णुपाद हम चपल व्यक्ति सदस्य सीमा भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय जय विष्णुपाद लखन किशोर दास वादिका की जय जय विष्णुपाद सत्यानंद शील भक्तिवेदांत ठाकुर की जय जय विष्णुपाद वैष्णव साधु श्री जगन्नाथ दास महाराज की जय जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जी रूपोपाल भट्टदास गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय नमाचार्य श्री हरदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री दादा शिव भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड के गोवर्धन की जय श्री श्री गौरांगी बैंगलोरेश्वर भगवान की जय श्री मायापुर धाम की जय श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय गंगामयी की जय यमुनामयी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय तुलस देवी की जय अनंतपुरी वैष्णव की जय श्री हरनाम संकीर्तन की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय इस्कॉन वर्तमान गुरुवंद की जय समाज भक्तों की जय गौरव परिवानंद हरि बोल All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu apatreshu nityam bhagavate sevaya. Bhagavate uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naishtihi. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Friday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 33, text 31 to text 37, because in most of the slokas there is no purport and there are two slokas in the purport is very small. So we will conclude this particular third canto today. Text 31. Tat virasi punyatamaham kshetram trailokya vishrutam namna siddha padam yatra rasam siddhim upeyushi. Translation. The place where Devahuti achieved her perfection, my dear Vidura, is understood to be a most sacred spot. It is known all over the three worlds as Siddhapada. Text 32. Tasyas tad yoga vidutha matyam abhutsare srotasam pravara shunya siddhita siddha sevita. Dear Vidura, the material elements of her body have melted into water and are now a flowing river, which is the most sacred of all rivers. Anyone who bathes in that river also attains perfection, and therefore all persons who desire perfection go bathe there. Text 33. Kapilo api mahayogi bhagavan pitur ashramad mataram tamanudnapya prak uditsim visham jayo. Translation. My dear Vidura, the great sage Kapila, the personality of Godhead, left his father's hermitage with the permission of his mother and went towards the northeast. Text 34. Siddhacharana Gandharvair Munibish Tapsaro Ganehi Stuyamanah Samudrenha Dattar Hananitanaha. Translation. While he was passing in the northern direction, all the celestial denizens known as Charanas and Gandharvas, as well as the Munis and the damsels of the heavenly planets, prayed and offered him all respect. The ocean offered him oblations and a place of residence. It is understood that Kapila Muni first went towards the Himalayas and traced the course of the river Ganges, and he again came to the delta of Ganges at the sea, now known as the Bay of Bengal. The ocean gave him residence at a place still known as Ganga Sagara, where the river meets the sea. That place is called Ganga Sagara Tirtha, and even today people gather there to offer respects to Kapil Deva, the original author of the Sankhya system of philosophy. Unfortunately, this Sankhya system has been misrepresented by an impostor who is also named Kapila, but that other system of philosophy does not tally with anything described in the Sankhya of Kapila in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 35. Aste yogam samastaya Sankhyacharyais abhishtutaha Tarayanam apilokanam upasantyai samahitaha. Translation. Even now, Kapila Muni is staying there in trance for the deliverance of the conditioned souls in three worlds. And all the acharyas or great teachers of the system of Sankhya philosophy are worshipping in text 36. Yetan nigaditam tata yat prishtoham tavanagha kapilasya cha samvato devahutyascha pavanaha. Translation. My dear son, since you have inquired from me, I have answered, O sinless one, the descriptions of Kapila Deva and his mother and their activities are the purest of all pure discourses. Text 37. Ya idam anushnoti yad vidyate Kapila Munir matamatma yoga guhyam bhagavati kritabdi suparnaketha upalabate bhagavat padharabindham ya idam anushnoti o bindate Kidatte Kapila Munir Matam Atma Yoga Guhyam Bhagavati Katati Suparnati Keta Upalabhate Bhagavat Padharabindham Ya idam Anushnoti Yo Bidatte Kapila Munir Matam Atma Yoga Guhyam Bhagavati Krita Di Suparnaketa Upalabhate Bhagavat Padharabindham Translation of Bhagavad. The description of the dealings of Kapila Deva and his mother is very confidential, and anyone who hears or reads this narration becomes a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is carried by Garuda, and he therefore thereafter enters into the abode of the Supreme Lord to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, perpetual above quantity. The narration of Kapil Deva and his mother Devahuti is so perfect and transcendental that even if one only hears or reads this description, he achieves the highest perfectional goal of life, for he engages in the loving service of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no doubt that Devahuti, who had the Supreme Lord as her son and who followed the instructions of Kapila Deva, so nicely attained the highest perfection of human life. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the third canto, 33rd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Activities of Kapila. Om Adhyantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshutmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Sthapitam Ena Bhutale Swayambhupagadamakyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Kamsajivam Sadhvaitam Savadutam Parjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakandita हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपी कांता कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते सप्तकांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी शुभांशते देवी प्रणमामि प्रिय पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मोहम करोति वाचालं वेदिकं शीघ्रं जयकारणं परमानन्दं श्री चैतन्य। Hare Krishna. This Friday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. So here today in this chapter, which is the 33rd chapter named Activities of Kapila, we are concluding this chapter with a conclusion which we will understand today. We start from verse number 31, but before we start with verse number 31, we'll just quickly run through the previous chapters so that we can understand how the whole chapter work through, and then we'll conclude it. So we started with chapter 23 on the previous chapter prior to chapter 23 as to how first Kardamuni saw Devahuti and they got married. Kardamuni was a great yogi, whereas Devahuti was from a daughter of Swayambhu Manu. She was from a priestly background. After marriage, Devahuti served Kardamuni without caring for her body, and she neglected her body. And then, at the right time, when she had to desire to have progeny, Kardamuni, by his mystic power, built an aerial mansion, and he took her around the universe. By then, she had become very skinny because she did not care for her body. In the process, serving Kardamuni. So Kardamuni was pleased with her, and then he asked her to take a bath in the Bindu Sarovar, which is a holy place. And after that, she became she regained her original beauty and form. He took her in his aerial mansion throughout the universe. And thereafter, they had union, and Devahuti gave birth to 9 daughters. And just when Kardamuni was about to leave, she asked Kardamuni to give fearlessness. The reason fearlessness is that she said that all the daughters will get married and go away, but then she will be left alone and she will be fearful being all alone. And so Kardamuni stays back, and then she gives birth to Lord Kapila, one of the incarnations of Lord Krishna. So the point is that generally we see in today's society also, daughters get married, but then mother needs someone to take care of her, which is generally a son. So Mother Devahuti pleaded Kardamuni to have a son, and Devahuti and Kardamani being both great devotees of the Lord, they had Lord Kapila as their son, and this was none other than the incarnation of Lord Krishna. Then we see in chapter 24, Lord Kapila appears, and then Kardamuni seeks permission from his own son, Lord Kapila, to leave. He wants to go on a Vanprastha. So Kapila Dev gives permission to Kardamuni, and then Kardamuni leaves. Kapila Deva gives instructions to Kardamuni to worship him as Lord Kapila, and then he will attain the spiritual world. So Kardamuni left for the forest and fixed his mind on the Lord, and he attained the spiritual world. In chapter 25, we see that Devahuti is telling Lord Kapila that she is feeling very sick of the disturbance due to the material senses and her senses, and asked Lord Kapila for regarding the ultimate goal of life. What is the goal of life? Lord Kapila then starts to explain the various processes of yoga and the supremacy of bhakti yoga to attain the ultimate goal. So yoga means to connect, and to connect means with the Supreme Lord, who is there seated in the heart as Paramatma. So there are different processes of connecting the Lord, and like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and then Bhakti Yoga. Then Kapila Dev finally concludes by mentioning the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga over the other process of yoga. Then he starts explaining about why the sadhana bhakti and raganuga bhakti. Why the sadhana bhakti is what we all practice based on following the stipulated rules and regulations given in the scriptures and acharyas. And then these should ultimately lead one to raganuga bhakti, that is instant bhakti, that is love of Godhead. Then in chapter 26, Lord Kapila explains about the fundamental principles of material nature and other factors like time, etc. Then in chapter 27, Lord Kapila explains about how a jiva gets entangled in this material world and how to get liberated. So we all are conditioned souls. We have got entangled into this material nature, that is Prakriti, and then we have to become free from this material world, and that is what is called liberation. But liberation ultimately is not the end of life. There is something called Panchama Purushartha, that is generally living entities work for Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha. But there is something beyond moksha, that is called Panchama Purushartha, given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that is love of Godhead. Then in chapter 28, Lord Kapila explains about the various limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga has got many limbs, and how a yogi gets liberated by practicing this particular yoga. So Yama, Niyama, Asana, Dharana, Pratyahara, and so many steps are there in this yoga. But then this yoga practice is practically not possible in this age of Kali Yuga, where people are normally disturbed mentally, and they can't leave their home and go somewhere to a mountain or forest. So practically it is not possible. It's not impossible, but there may be one in lakhs or crores. Then Lord Kapila explains about the gradation. 29, Lord Kapila explains about the gradations of the living entities. I mean, there are different grades of living entities like plants. There are so many of life in plants. Then there are birds, animals, and so forth. He explains about the different grades of living entities. And finally, he comes to the human form of life. And then he explains as to how the human form of life is meant to establish this yoga process, follow this yoga process, of which Bhakti Yoga is the best process in this Kali Yuga. And then he goes about explaining in devotional service in its various divisions, and then the offenses in the devotional service and the nature of time, etc. Then in chapter 30, Lord Kapila explains about how a jiva gets entangled in fruitive activities, and in the process develop attachment like I and mind, and then suffers at the time of death. So we are all conditioned souls to come here due to the activities performed by us in our previous births, and we, in this birth we either reap or suffer for the pious or impious activities. And in the process, we perform activities in this birth also, which further entangles us into this material world. resulting in future births. And in the process, we develop a lot of attachment to uh, family, property, society, country, etc. And we develop this I and mind. And in the process, we also suffer at the time of death. Because the Lord says, "Yannam office maran bhavam." That means whatever you think at the time of life, if you are leaving the body, that is what your next life is. So we continue in the cycle of birth and death. Now we come to chapter uh, in text number 31. Here, the place is mentioned, the place where Devahuti achieved her perfection, my dear Vidura, is understood to be a most sacred spot. It is known all over the three worlds as Siddhapada. That means Maitreya Rishi is explaining to Vidura that the place where Mother Devahuti left her body uh, is a holy place, and that place, particular place, is known as Siddhapada. I don't know where this place is. Some say it is in Gujarat, some say it is in Rajasthan, but definitely where the Lord winds up his pastimes like Dwarka, where the Lord performs his pastimes like Porbandar in Gujarat, uh, Udupi in Karnataka. Like that, Lord performs his pastimes, but the Lord performs his pastime with his devotees. So even the Lord does not perform pastime with mixed devotees like us. Mixed devotees means we are all conditioned devotees who are practicing devotional service through Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So we have some desire in this material world to enjoy, and we at the same time practice bhakti also. So the Lord performs his pastimes with his associates or pure devotees. And so pure devotees are as good as the Lord himself, as we sing in the morning Samsara Dhavana prayers, except Prasad Bhagavad Prasad, except Prasad Nagati Kutopi. That means the Lord and pure devotees, there is no difference between them. And a pure devotee also, where he appears or he performs pastime or disappears, become a holy place. So the place where Devahuti left her body is called Siddhapada, and it is considered to be a sacred spot. So devotees visit these holy places, hear about their past lives, and try to imbibe these in their personal life. We'll come to that later. Then text 32, Maitreyi says, "Dear Vidura, the material elements of her body have melted into water and are now a flowing river, which is the most sacred of all rivers. Anyone who bathes in that river also attains perfection, and therefore all persons who desire perfection go bathe there." So Devahuti, when she left her body, the material elements within the body, our body is made up of, in Ayurveda, they have kapha, vayu, and bile, mucus, and air. So it consists of material elements like bones, flesh, blood, etc. So all of these, when she left her body, melted into water. This is an example how a pure devotee leaves the body. Uh, Similarly, there are so many examples in Srimad Bhagavatam when devotees leave their body. For example, in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's an example of Narad Muni, how he left his body in the same material body and attained a spiritual body. There are different ways that devotees can attain spiritual bodies. So in the case of Devahuti, her material body consisting of these material elements and melted into water, and then that became a flowing river which became holy. And though it is mentioned that those who bathe in that river attain perfection, and therefore those who desire perfection go to bathe in this river. So we must understand a little bit from this sloka also about the importance of taking a bath in these rivers. Now, anyone who bathes in holy rivers like Ganges, Yamuna, Saraswati, and rivers like these where Lord performs his pastimes, or the devotees of the Lord perform pastimes, are considered holy uh, and can purify our existence, which is conditioned. At the same time, we see in this Kali Yuga, people are disturbed. They still go to holy places just to wash off their sins and then come back and again commit sinful activities. So that bathing part of it has been nullified by again committing sinful activities. So there is a quote given in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, which says, I'll read the translation. He says, my dear, my lord, that is here, Yudhishthira Maharaj is addressing Vidura, who was a very great devotee of the Lord. He says, my lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified, because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart. You turn all the places into places of pilgrimage. You will understand from this. Holy places are meant to purify our existence. But many times people go to holy places and commit sinful activities there. So they have to pay the price for committing sinful activities there, and they may get purified. But by the time they come back again to their respective places, they have already committed so many sinful activities. But on the other hand, this Loka Yudhishthira Maharaj explains that pure devotees like Vidura are themselves personified places of pilgrimage, because they carry the Supreme Personality of God in their heart. So wherever they are, they convert those places into places of pilgrimage. So wherever pure devotees are present, they become places of pilgrimage. But we must understand what is the point of going to pilgrimage, what is the purpose of going to pilgrimage. One should not go to a place of pilgrimage thinking that he will visit there, have darshan of the Lord, and then come back. But one should, on the other hand, go to these holy places of pilgrimage and hear from the great devotees like Vidura, who can narrate the pastimes of the Lord in the process of their association with the Lord. So that is very important. When one goes to holy places and hears the pastimes of the Lord, then there is purification of our existence, and that pastime of the Lord is retained in our mind by absorption in those pastimes. So that is purification. So that is when one associates with the Lord, even by visiting holy places, one gets purified. But one need not necessarily go to holy places, but it is good to visit, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given one of the five these principles as visiting holy places. One should visit holy places like Mathura, Vrindavan, Mayapur on a frequent basis. But not only visit these holy places to wash off our sinful activities, but one should go with a purpose to see a pure devotee of the Lord and hear from them about the uh, purpose of visiting the holy place and hearing the pastimes of the Lord. When one hears and contemplates on these pastimes, that is left within our mind, and that will gradually purify us from our existence, conditional existence. The Lord is present in the heart, everyone's heart as Paramatma. So when we hear, the Lord also purifies the conditional body of all our anarthas. That is what the holy places are meant for. And it becomes, holy places are already holy. But then what happens is they become further surcharged by the presence of the Lord's unalloyed devotees. So if anyone visits a holy place, he must search out for such pure devotees residing there, take lessons from them and try to apply such instructions in practical life. That is the purpose of visiting a holy place. Not as many people will visit a holy place like they go on a holiday. It should not be the motive, but they should look out for a pure devotee of the Lord. Take lessons from them. What are the lessons that we can take from the pastimes that the Lord has performed there, and apply them in for their personal life? That shows the path of purifying by applying such instructions, and then one prepares ultimately to go back to Godhead and become free from this material world. So the purport in the first canto, there's a mention as how to go to some holy place of pilgrimage does not mean only to take a bath in the Ganges or Yamuna or to visit the temples situated in those places. one should also find representatives of Vidura who have no desire in life save and except to serve the personality of Godhead. So pure devotees of the Lord have no other mission but to spread the glories of the Lord by narrating their pastime, by narrating about the philosophy of the Lord, and by narrating the devotees who visit those holy places, they get purified of their anarthas. Then further mention that the personality of Godhead is always with such pure devotees because of their unalloyed service. These devotees have attained that perfection because of their unalloyed service without any tinge of fruitive action or utopian speculation. That means these devotees of the Lord have no selfish desires in the process of trying to glorify the Lord, and they are free from all fruitive activities or utopian speculation. That means many times devotees of the Lord uh, stay in those places and conduct business, etc. Or they may even, like we have guides. There are so many devotees who might take up such services, but ultimate goal, purpose for which they are doing these services should be understood. They may do it for money or due to some speculative thoughts, but that is not actual service to the Lord. The actual service is unconditional service to the Lord without any fruitive results or expectation of fruitive results or mental speculation. That is actual service and that comes by the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam, that is hearing and chanting. If you see, Prahlad Maharaj also has given 9 processes of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Mandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanvedanam, etc. Now, if you see all of these, the first three are more important: Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Vishnu Smaranam. So when one does Shravanam and Kirtanam, then Vishnu Smaranam automatically comes, and then which will lead one to uh, render service to the Lord, by which one can attain Sakyam or Vatsalyam and all those positions. So that is the purpose. So one should focus on Shravanam and Kirtanam, which can lead to uh, Vishnu Smaranam. The pure devotees of the Lord are ones who have heard from authorities like Vyasadeva and so forth, who has and coming down the disciplic succession. So Srimad Sukadeva Goswami also heard from his father Vyasadeva, and he is described it to Parikshit Maharaj. So that is the way of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So by their actions, pure devotees of the Lord can render any place of pilgrimage to holy, and the holy places are worth the name only on their account. That means the holy places are worth visiting only if one hears the glories of the Lord. And such pure devotees are able to rectify the polluted atmosphere of any place, and what to speak of a holy place rendered unholy by questionable actions of interested persons who try to adopt a professional life at the cost of reputation of a holy place. So holy places are holy. They are considered holy by the presence of the Lord and the presence of the Lord's pure devotees. But those who visit there pollute that atmosphere by their questionable actions, who have got self-interest. But there are pure devotees of the Lord always in these places who have no other business but to please the Lord by their unconditional service which they render to the Lord, by glorifying the Lord. And devotees like us who are practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, by visiting those places and hearing from pure devotees of the Lord, become purified of our conditional existence. That is the purpose of visiting a holy place. There is also a very nice cant quote in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, which Prabhupada always quotes. यस्यात्म बुद्धि पुनपेत साधुते स्वधिक कल्पादिषु भौम इज्जतिः यत्तीर्थ बुद्धि सलिलेन कर्हिते जनेषु अभिज्ञेषु स एव गोकरः. The translation says, anyone who identifies his self as the inert body composed of mucus, bile, and hair, who assumes his wife and family as are permanently his own, who thinks as who thinks an earthen image or a land of his birth as worshipable, or who sees a place of pilgrimage and sees just merely water there, but who never identifies with, feels kinship with or worships or even visits those who are wise in spiritual truth, such a person is no better than a cow or an ass. We'll understand this verse because it's very important, which Srila Prabhupada always quotes in his class. That means generally, people identify this themselves with this body. This body is all in all, and they identify themselves with the next extension of the body, that is wife and family, etc. Then these are gross materialists. Then there are those who worship this land of birth as worshipable. Many say Bharat Bhumi, it is worshipable. But what is the understanding of this Bharat Bhumi? Why you have got birth in this Bharat Varsha? One must try to understand. Or one who sees a place of pilgrimage as merely a place of water there. That means, just as I mentioned now, just going to a place to bathe in Ganga or Yamuna is not enough. They understand it as a place of pilgrimage to merely wash off their sinful activities. But who never identifies himself or feels kinships or worships or even visits those who are wise in spiritual truth. So there are those who just visit as a ritual, but don't identify themselves or in relationship with the Lord or in relationship with the Lord's devotees who are is wise in spiritual understanding. And such a person, these three different various classes of person, such a person is no better than a cow or an ass. So we must understand that animals have no intelligence. For them, the body eating, mating, defending, and sleeping is all in all. So such persons who visit holy places of the various classes which is mentioned in this purport, they are nothing better than a cow or an ass which identifies itself with this material body. Then we go to text number 33, where Maitreyi says, "My dear Vidura, the great sage Kapila, the personality of Godhead, left his father's hermitage with the permission of his mother and went towards the northeast." So Lord Kapila also further left towards the Himalayas to the northeast in text number 34. While he was passing in the northern direction, all the celestial denizens known as Charanas and Gandharvas, as well as the Munis and damsels of the heavenly planets, prayed and offered him all respects. The ocean offered him oblations and the place of residence. So Kapiladev also left towards the Himalayas, and thereafter he traced himself to the course of river Ganges. And there he came to a place known as Ganga Sagara Tirtha, where the Ganges river joins the sea. And still it is considered that many people visit there. It's in the Bay of Bengal, and people offer respects. And it is said that Lord still resides there. In the next sloka, we'll come to that. And people go there to offer their respects to Lord Kapila. So when Kapila Dev was on his way to come to this particular place, all the denizens of heaven all offered respects to him. And also the denizens of heavenly planets are damsels. They all came from heavenly planets, offered respects to Lord Kapila. The ocean also offered oblations to him and offered a place of residence. And that particular place is called Ganga Sagara Tirtha. And there's a mention in the purport about how this Lord Kapila is none other than the one who explained this Sankhya philosophy. So the whole a greater part of the third canto of second part, part 2 of third canto, explains about the Sankhya philosophy of understanding the material elements within this body. And we see how Devahuti attained perfection, that her elements in the material body turned into water and it became very holy. So this is what was given. These teachings of Lord Kapila, known as Sankhya philosophy, was given by this particular incarnation of Lord as Kapila Deva. And this Kapila is the real author, original author of this Sankhya philosophy. Unfortunately, as mentioned in Kali Yuga, there are so many who claim themselves to be God. Another person who claimed to be an impostor, he claimed himself to be Lord Kapila, but he was an atheistic Sankhya. He gave an atheistic philosophy of the Sankhya philosophy, contrary to what is actually explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. And there's a mention as to how Kapila Dev is still staying there in this Ganga Sagara Tirtha, and he is there to deliver conditioned souls like us. And there are a lot of many acharyas and teachers of the Sankhya philosophy who are there in that particular place, and they are all worshipping him. Now, as you see, the Lord describes in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna 4:7 and 4:8, he says, Yada yada hi dharmasya jnanir bhavata bharata, apyuttana dharmasya tadatmanam janati. So whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practices, O descendant of Bharata, and the predominant rise of religion, at that time I myself descend. And the following sloka 4:8, the Lord says to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So there are different incarnations of Lord that appear in every millennium, and in fact, they appear in every day of Brahma. It is said that they appear in every day of Brahma. So Narsimhadev appeared to protect Prahlad Maharaj. Similarly, Kapila Dev appeared to establish the philosophy of Sankhya, by which one can connect himself to the Lord, that is yoga. So Kapila Dev uh, appeared and is still present there. And those devotees who have faith, they can, by going to and visiting these places, can realize the presence of Kapila Dev, as also one can feel the presence of the pure devotees and hear from them. Now, text number 36, where Maitri Rishi tells Vidura, my dear son, since you have inquired from me, I have answered, O sinless one. The descriptions of Kapila Deva and his mother and their activities are the purest of all pure discourses. That means here, Maitreya Rishi is telling Vidura, Maitreya and Vidura are also two great devotees of the Lord. And when great devotees of the Lord, they have no other business but to discuss Krishna Katha. Normally, non-devotees meet and discuss Gramya Katha. What Srila Prabhupada calls as Gramya Katha, that is politics, economics, social science, and so forth. But when devotees meet, pure devotees, they always discuss about Krishna Katha. So here, Maitreya Rishi is explaining that this description of Kapila Deva and his pastime with his mother and his father Kardamuni, they are all the purest of all the pure discourses. So the Lord is pure. Anything to do with the Lord, they are all pure. So devotees, pure devotees of the Lord, also pure in their consciousness, and their pastimes are also pure. And discussions of such pastimes of the Lord are also pure. Now we'll come to text number 37, which is called the Falasruti. Falasruti is something, I'll read the translation first. The description of the dealings of Kapila Deva and his mother is very confidential, and anyone who hears or reads this narration becomes a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is carried by Garuda, and he therefore enters into the abode of the Supreme Lord to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So, this is the concluding verse in this chapter, which is called Falasruti. What is the Falasruti means? Falasruti means what is the ultimate gain, benefit that one attains. I mean, pure devotees of the Lord don't have any personal desire, but what can one get? Conditional souls like us, what can we get by discussing about these pastimes and glories of the Lord? That is what is explained, which is called, it's called Falasruti. So here he says, the dealings of Kapil Deva and his mother are very confidential in nature, and anyone who hears or reads this narration becomes a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means those who hear the narrations of Lord Kapila of these teachings of Sankhya philosophy, they become devotees of the Lord. Now, what happens is that when we hear the philosophy and the pastimes, there are a lot of teachings that we can imbibe from them. Not only should we imbibe these teachings from them, but we must apply in our practical life. And when we apply these in our practical life, then our existence becomes purified. Otherwise, it becomes like a ritual, taking into one side one ear and throwing it off from the other ear. So we should not only hear, but try to apply the teachings in our life practically on a day-to-day basis. And when we do this, then what happens is that we get purified. And then we also have an opportunity to become pure devotees of the Lord. And then when that happens, we become qualified to enter into the abode of the Supreme Lord and render transcendental loving service to Him, which is what our constitutional position is. So the purpose of all the exercises that we do, we hear, is that we imbibe the teachings and practically apply them in our life, by which we also become devotees of the Lord. And over a period of time, we become pure devotees, by which we become free of all the contaminations that we have got in this conditioned existence. And we also go back to the original abode of the Lord. This is not our home, it's a temporary place, Dukhalayam Asaswatam, which is full of miseries. But by rendering service and becoming pure in our existence, we have an opportunity to go back to Godhead, which is our original home. And what happens when we go there? We render service to the Lord, which is our original constitutional position. And that is what is perfection of human life. Now, there is some more reference we can give from Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Now, we have already studied from 3rd canto, 19th chapter, about Varahadev killing Hiranyaksha. So, in that particular chapter also, now in every chapter, or most of many chapters, this Falasuti is given. So, in that particular chapter, which is 19th chapter, 3rd canto, the Falasuti is given, where it says, "O Brahmanas, anyone who hears, chants, or takes pleasure in the wonderful narration of the killing of the Hiranyaksha demon by the Lord, who appeared as the first boar in order to deliver the world, is at once relieved of the results of sinful activities, even the killing of a Brahman." So the point is that anyone who hears, chants, or even takes pleasure in hearing the wonderful narration of the Lord Varahadev killing Hiranyaksha demon, he is at once relieved of the results of performing sinful activities to the extent of even a killing of a Brahmana. So imagine accidentally or whatever way someone has killed a Brahmana. By hearing the narrations of this Varahadev killing Hiranyaksha, one becomes relieved of the results of these sinful activities. And there in the purport it is mentioned, since the personality of Godhead is in an absolute position, there is no difference between his pastimes and his personality. That means there is no difference between the Lord's pastimes and his personality, Lord's form, qualities, etc. They are all absolute in nature. And anyone who hears about these pastimes associates with the Lord directly, and one who associates directly with the Lord is certainly free from all sinful activities, even to the extent of killing a Brahmana. It is considered the most sinful activity in the material world. So the point is that uh, anyone who hears this pastime, he becomes free from all sinful reactions. Then there is a further mention. One should be very eager to hear about the activities of the Lord from a bona fide source, the pure devotee. So one should hear these pastimes of the Lord from a pure devotee of the Lord. And if one simply gives oral reception to the narration and accepts the glories of the Lord, then he becomes qualified. So when we hear, we become qualified. And there is one more verse which is also called Palasuti. So here also in this chapter also, text 36 and 37 are considered Palasuti. And in that chapter also, uh, 37 and 38 are considered Palasuti. In 38, translation it mentions, this most sacred narrative confers extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the objects of one's desires. On the field of battle, it promotes the strength of one's vital organs and organs of action. And one who listens to it at the last moment of his life is transferred to the supreme abode of the Lord. Oh dear, Samanaka. So this is the most important conclusion that is given, that one who hears these glories of the Lord, Varahadev killing Nasamati, not only he becomes free from all the simple reaction, but when he lives in this, as long as one lives in this material world, the Lord gives him extraordinary merit. He gives him wealth, he gives fame, he gives longevity, very long life, and all the objects of one's desires. So even if somebody has got some material desire, the Lord can fulfill those desires. And in the process, by fulfilling those desires, the Lord will purify the soul of those material desires also. Because ultimately, if someone has got desire, inner desire for fame, the Lord may give that person some fame, but that fame also will become a source of frustration for that particular person when he loses that fame. The Lord knows how to give something to someone and take away everything from someone. So the Lord can give, the Lord can take also. But as long as one is living in this material world and does not use these opulences for sense gratification, but rather use them in the service of the Lord, if somebody is glorifying a devotee does not take that glorification to his personal credit. Rather, he offers it as a credit to his spiritual master and the previous acharyas. That is how Srila Prabhupada taught. At a moment when any devotee, disciple of Srila Prabhupada glorified Srila Prabhupada, he said it is his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, who has given the first opportunity for Srila Prabhupada to associate with these devotees. So Srila Prabhupada always glorified his spiritual master and all the previous acharyas in the parampara. Similarly, if someone becomes glorified by devotees glorifying him, one should not take credit, because that becomes a point for one to get attached to his name and fame, which is very, very common. It's very difficult to find a devotee who is not attached to name and fame. People look for these even after coming to the performing devotional service. So the point is that the Falasruti in this particular sloka, 19th chapter, is that as long as one is living in this material world, the Lord endows all these material benefits also, and it also promotes physical strength if one is in a battlefield. The battlefield need not be a physical battle; it can be on a mental platform, it can be an intellectual platform, and anyone who listens to this uh, conversation or to this pastimes of the Lord, of Lord Varahadev killing Narsimadev, he becomes glorious if he hears this at the time of leaving his body, and then he is immediately transferred to his the Lord's supreme abode. So this is how the process of hearing and uh, chanting the name of the Lord benefits conditional souls like us. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also recommended 5 principles, namely to serve the devotees of the Lord, to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, visit holy places, and worship the deity form of the Lord. So even if one wants to worship the deity form of the Lord also, still one has to have that Shravanam and Kirtanam. Otherwise, what is the purpose of deity worship? That one will not know. As I mentioned, gave one quote from Srila Prabhupada. Otherwise, one will think the deity form of the Lord to be a normal material form made up of wood or stone or any other metal. So even to perform deity worship or to visit holy places, one must always emphasize on Shravanam and Kirtanam, which brings one to the stage of Vishnu Smaranam. That Vishnu Smaranam is what can take ultimately one either go back to Godhead and restore one's constitutional position, or again take birth in this material world, in the cycle of birth and death. So with this, I conclude the class for the day. With this, we conclude this third canto also, and when we'll be going into the fourth canto from now on. So thank you all very much. If you have any questions, any comments, you can ask me in the next couple of minutes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yes,
thank you very much for
Hare Krishna.
the wonderful conclusion of the chapter. If we have
Thank
to
you,
derive
Prabhu.
a few points from the conversation or the learnings from Devahuti and Kapiladev,
Yes.
what would be those as per your...
If you remember, in the previous classes I had mentioned, before Lord Kapila left, he told Mother Devahuti to follow the instructions that he has given. Of which the most important was meditate on the form of the Lord. So when we hear the pastimes of the Lord, we must all try to meditate on the form of the Lord and also meditate on the instructions given by the Lord and implement them practically in our life, which can give purification. For example, in most of the pastimes of the Lord, they are not just pastimes, but they are giving teachings. For example, in the Sankhya philosophy, we see how the whole material nature is composed of material elements, but ultimately, all the material elements, when we leave the body, material nature itself at the time of annihilation gets merged into the body of the Lord. So, all that we see in this material world, my body or my family, the material nature that we see, they are all temporary in nature. And at the time of annihilation, all will go back and enter into the body of the Lord. And again, when the creation takes place or one takes birth, again the same process starts. So Lord Kapila actually explained the principles of material nature. And there's one full chapter that was discussed on how conditioned souls like us get entangled in fruitive activities. That is very important. And then how by performing these fruitive activities or by even performing sinful activities, we suffer birth after birth. So we must try to apply whatever we have learned so far. I'm sure all of you who are present in the class today have been hearing the classes on a day-to-day basis. And there is nothing wrong in reading again and again and again, because in Kali Yuga, we are all unfortunate, our intelligence is less. So we must try to read over them again and again and try to understand. Conclusion is what is most important. And apply these teachings in a practically in our life, by which our life becomes perfect. Many might hear, but if it is not applied practically in our life, then it is just like hearing anything else. So application of our practical life is definitely a must in the process of hearing. Did I answer your question, Prabhu? So the whole fundamentals of material life is given in these teachings of Lord Kapila, which has explained a couple of chapters, 4, 5, 6 chapters, very nicely.
Thank you very much for thank you very much for that complete oversight of the whole chapter, Prabhu.
Thank you. Did I answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes, you did, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions? Any other comments?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, like the Muni, he left Devahuti mother, he went to forest. Again, the same Kapila, they also followed the same. He left his mother, and Kardamuni left his wife, and Kapil Dev left his mother also. So, what is the learn from this, Prabhu? What is it? What lessons we learn from this? Please, can you enlighten?
If you see the beginning of this Mother Devahuti's, the earlier chapters in this itself, we read, Devahuti was lamenting. Why? Because of one is this material body. Her husband left, and then she had a son who was none other than the Lord himself, and he also left. So when she heard the teachings of Kapila Dev and applied it practically in her life, Kapil Dev also instructed her to apply the teachings, whatever he has done, even in her life. So when she applied the teachings of Kapila in her life, she became detached. She was not attached anymore. So at one point of time, she asked for fearlessness, that is a son who can deliver her. But when she heard the teachings of Lord Kapila, she became detached from all that was material. So she was not lamenting. On the other hand, after Kapila left, she also wound up her pastimes. And in the process, she left her body and she attained a spiritual body. So the point is that what we must also take forth is that we all have attachments to our kith and kin. But by hearing these glories of the Lord and applying these teachings of even Sankhya philosophy in our own life, we'll understand the temporary nature of this material world. And we should also conclude, yes, we must leave this material body at some time, and then try to apply these teachings in our life, by which we also become fearless and we become detached from everything that is material. So irrespective of one, nobody comes here with a father or mother, nobody comes with a child. We all come here alone, and they said we go back alone. So we have to build our own, make our own way back to Godhead. So all that we see are temporary in nature, only for this particular lifetime. This is what we should conclude. So any attachment that we develop, it becomes a cause for our bondage in this material.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So can I
Thank
ask
you.
one more question,
Yes,
Prabhuji?
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Like
Yes, Prabhu.
as I said in the class, when we listen to the pastimes of Dev and Narasimha, all the things are neutralized. All
Your voice is breaking. In the past times of?
pastimes of Varadev and Lord Narasimha,
Yes.
as when
Yes.
you listen, when we hear that, all the sins, whatever is committed, all it will be neutralized.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you understand this? Like when we have heard of Narasimha Dev and Varadev, so should we think that all our sins has been neutralized?
Okay. Okay. The point is, as you go on hearing, it does not happen for us. Our conditional existence has been for many, many births. So it need not happen in one birth, it can happen in one birth also. But the more we hear, the tendency to commit sinful activity. See, the thing is, we are hearing, we are getting purified. At the same time, we are committing so many sinful activities, we are committing so many offenses also. So, gradually, over a period of time, by hearing again and again and again, not only we become purified of our conditional existence, but also we also become free from the tendency to commit further sinful activities and also commit any offenses to the devotees of the Lord. That we will reach, that will take us to a mature stage of devotional service. And at that time, we can go back to, we become free of all these anarthas and we become qualified to go back to Godhead. So many times, even during Srila Prabhupada's time, the disciples asked, it is difficult to become 100%. So Srila Prabhupada first said 90%, then 80%, then he came down to 70% also. So if one can attain perfection in Krishna consciousness, even up to 70%, because Srila Prabhupada is the founder Acharya, to that extent, we become free from the tendency to commit sinful activities and free from committing offenses also. So we can also become free. We should see that we don't commit any more sinful activities. That is the purpose of hearing again and again and again. Many times you may think, I know these pastimes, but no, we might still continue with our anarthas. So point is that we must give up these anarthas, which we can realize by the process of hearing and chanting in the association of devotees with the Lord.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. It's
Thank you,
very
Prabhu.
clear.
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Anybody else? Okay, then thank you all very much. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.